Good evening, everyone. Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. This is part two, and our guest tonight is Timothy Cable, and I will bring him right in, guys. Come on in, Timothy. This is a good, plush conversation that we will have. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Great. It was so much in here. I was excited, and I
Well,
couldn't go
we ain't
further.
pleased.
Yes, it is. I was like, we can't tell it all, but I
No.
do have here. So let's just start. Last time we left off, we had gotten with Dr. Tidrow, and he was telling Dr. Abernathy about his diagnosis. And we start with him going to tell his family he's gotten his cat already. So we'll get into the story, but give us a backdrop of yourself, and then we'll get right into the story.
Sure. I'm retired after 30 years with the state of Connecticut as first a social worker and then a supervisor with the Department of Children and Families. You seem to have gone.
No, I paused it. I dropped something, so I'm still here.
Okay. After 30 years with the Department of Children and Families, I retired, took a disability. I had to take a disability retirement. And I started writing a few years before. My first novel was published in 2021. This is my second one. And now I have a little assembly line of them ready to go. So I'm a full-time writer now.
I'm still here. Awesome. I am still here. Could you show them your book?
Sure.
This is a wonderful book, and I'm sorry about that. I dropped some things, and I didn't want to be scurrying on camera. Yep,
There
the
we go.
sea change of Dr. Abernathy. And as we said, oh my goodness, this is so well written. I really enjoy
Thank you.
this story. I really do. There's some forgiveness in here, and there's some things that some characters here. You brought the other characters in and different um, plots that they have in the story. So we start off, as we said, we stopped off last time when Dr. Tidrow was talking to Dr. Abernathy and to tell him about his diagnosis. And so I see here when Dr. Abernathy, we talked about how close he is to Prescott and Bill. And there's some things going on with him and his children that we will still talk about today as it unfolds. But I like the way he reached back, talked to Prescott and Bill, his partner, and they began not so quickly, but to talk about this diagnosis. So let's start there when Dr. Abernathy talks to Prescott and Bill about his diagnosis.
Sure. Well, Dr. Abernathy, Lowell Abernathy, is the oldest of his siblings, and Prescott's the one closest to him in age, and they have a very close relationship. And Prescott knew that he was going to the doctor. He knew he had been not feeling well, but when he tells him the diagnosis that it's stage 4 stomach cancer, and I'm not really giving anything away. That's on page 1 of the book. Um, he Prescott's shocked because he can't really fathom it and how it happened so quickly, and that Lowell didn't have any knowledge of it or any suspicion of it. He just had been having stomach issues, digestive problems, a lot of reflux and so forth. And then when he went and he lost a little bit of weight, when he goes to and has the tests done, they determine that it's stomach cancer, and it's pretty advanced. So then he tells Prescott and Bill, and they all get emotional, understandably, and they're trying to figure out. And so Dr. Abernathy sort of has a lovably gruff way of saying things, and he says, I'm not going to die today, and it's gonna I'm gonna be around for a while, so let's not all fall to pieces right now, because there are things we have to do.
Oh my goodness, as the readers see as he unfolds things. But I want to ask you, this might put you in a hot seat. Why did you choose the stomach cancer um, as a what am I trying to say?
As the
As a
disease,
platform, as that disease, that diagnosis? Did you have to do a lot of study before it? But why did you choose that
well, I
diagnosis?
looked into it, and I found that, I mean, I could have gone with pancreatic cancer, I suppose, but what I've seen, and it's terrible, they're all terrible, but with pancreatic cancer, it tends to not give that as much time, as it moves much more rapidly. And the stomach cancer, it's also one that is not easily detected, and is often not detected until it's too late.
Mhm.
So it fit the mold of the story, where it's going to be something that obviously it totally destroys the future for Dr. Abernathy, but he still has some future before, as he says to I believe Dr. Tidjo or somebody. He says, I have to get my book, I have to finish my book on history before I become history.
Yes, and I seen where he said that. And also in this, like they say, he didn't want them crying a lot, and he showed them, and it also showed to me as a reader with Bill and Prescott being there, the dynamics of their relationship. And so you also showed that in there, and I really like that. So you have some other characters that you kind of bring to the story, and you bring them in pretty slowly to really get that story unfolding. And so I liked the part when he was talking to his children
Right.
as he bring them in, and you get to see. I want to talk about these. You do tell a character description of each character that come into the story. So let's talk about um, Felicity, and a little bit
Sure.
of her husband. And also, I'm just going to rattle off, and you could do it in any order. So Felicity, and then you have Hank, her brother. Let's talk about that. You really tell a backdrop of not only their character, but where they work and different things that's happened. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, after on the Saturday that Lowell acquires the cats, the next day, Sunday, he's having his two children over alone, so he can tell them the diagnosis. And they don't know what he's going to tell them. He wouldn't really divulge anything. And Prescott comes along to give him moral support,
Hmm.
because Prescott knows everything, and he likes saying that he knows everything, but he knows the complexity of the relationships, and he knows the issues that Lowell is going to have to discuss with them. Um, so he's there to give him some support. And basically, when Felicity arrives, and she's a very efficient, put together, professional lady. She works as a news anchor on one of the local stations, and she also does she's like their star of the news program. She's their lead anchor, and on Sundays she does a show where she discusses various issues, and it's that's her thing. And she's very professional. She has 3 children. She's remarried. And later on, you'll find out what happened to her
Yes.
first husband, but he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's remarried to this fellow named Chad, and Lowell can't stand Chad, but he hasn't really. He's been subtle about that, and there's a strain in the relationship between Felicity and her father.
Mm-hmm.
She loves him, and he loves her, but she holds back. There's something that, and we find out pretty quickly what it is. She has a sort of a festering resentment against her father, and she sees him, but as he notes at one point, she sees him more out of duty than really wanting to do it. It's
Yes.
like a chore. Now Hank, on the other hand, is the dictionary definition of affable. He's just this big, lovable guy. He was an athlete. He played hockey, and he almost went professional, but he didn't. Prescott was actually a borderline professional tennis player, and then he injured himself. But now he's an antique dealer, an upscale antique dealer there in in New Hampshire. So what Hank does, Hank has his own business, and he'll buy up houses that are in need of repair, and he'll do tremendous rehabilitation and repair work on the houses, and then he'll sell them. And he's very successful, and he makes a good living. But as Lowell notes, he makes a good living, but not the living he should be making,
Mm-hmm.
because Hank is so affable that he gets it at both ends. In other words, the people who work for him take advantage of him, and he has to pay them more than he should. And the people who hire him to do it and who buy the houses, they, for various reasons, they nickel and dime him, so he lowers the price. So he gets cut off at both ends, and he's not making what he should because he's too nice.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Lowell knows this, and and he's like, he tells him that he settles. He said, you settle in life because you don't want problems, and you just you want to keep everybody happy. And then at one point, so they come over, and that's their background, and they still don't know why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing Felicity sees is the cat, and she's not happy about it. And she starts making these snarky comments about, oh, I see you went ahead and got the cat, Dad. Is that really a good idea? And and then Hank comes in, and he's excited about the cat because Hank and his father are close. Hank brings his father pastries from his favorite bakery. Lowell's favorite bakery is Laurel's Bakery, and that's a little nugget. My mother's name was Laurel, and she was a baker. So not a professional baker, but she could have been. So Hank brings him pastries, and Lowell said, well, I already have dessert. And he said, no, those are for you for later. So he gets some cannoli. So, they're Hank's excited about the cat. And then they see Fern. Fern's the first one. And then all of a sudden, Clausewitz sort of explodes into the room because he's a kitten. And Hank kind of has the same reaction that Prescott and Bill. He's confused about how it happened, but he's not disappointed. Whereas Felicity says, oh, you got 2 cats and one wasn't enough. You had to go and get 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's questioning him. And so now, as Lowell says at one point, or several points in the book, cancer has now given him freedom because He's
He'd
no
say what
longer,
you want to say.
he's not going to hold back anymore. He's going to say what he wants to say, because what does he have to lose? And he points out to his kids at one point, he says, I'm going to say whatever I want to say, because you're not going to abandon me. You're not going to abandon your dying father. So I'm going to say it. So he points out to Felicity when she's making comments about the cats. He says, as far as I know, you don't pay for them. You didn't pay for them. You're not paying for their feeding, and they don't live with you. So what I do as far as getting 1, 2, or 100 cats is none of your business.
That is so true. That is so true. And before we get far, and I want to go stay right there, because when she talks about the way she describes, say to the cat and everything, but readers will see, and I like the way you did that, that what she say hinges upon what she feels, and it's been festered, and
Right.
we'll see that unfold, how she does that. And also I like the way you with the fur friends, or with his cat Fern and Clausewitz, he also see, now it's like almost a human aspect of the cats also coming in and get to be that open door, more than a fly on the wall, and see what's going on in this, because the cats really care about them, and to see how Felicity acts. But there's so much in this that you unfold in these first 4 chapters that um I don't want to give it away, but at the same time, it's so much that I got 10 cards and I don't want to miss none of them. I had 10 cards. And so we see here in some of them, and I may not do it in the same order, but you could catch up on the stories.
Sure.
Um, we see Bill Prescott being that comfort for his brother. We
Right.
see how he listens to the children, and they have this full space of talking. We also see how Hank, the relationship that they had. I'm going to jump out of line and say this, just was speaking about Hank, how there's a scene in there that Dr. Abernathy unfolds what exactly is going on with him. And let's talk about that. He didn't just tell them right away that he was sick. It was them talking, and then finally it got to the conversation of what's really going on. Let's visit that conversation.
Sure. Well, he unpacks other things first, and he deals with some issues. And as you're right, there were some festering issues there that Felicity makes remarks alluding to, and Dr. Abernathy says, "Okay, enough of that. Let's get it right out in the open."
Mm-hmm.
He says, "I know what you mean, what you're meaning here," and they dive into the past.
Yes. Oh, that was beautiful.
And he, thank you, and he, I don't want to give it all away, but he enlightens the kids to what really happened in the past, and a lot of things they didn't know, and they never, and he basically he says to Felicity at one point, he's like, you're an investigative reporter, how could you not figure this out?
Yeah.
And he says to her that he basically discusses the disillusion of his marriage with their mother,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a very sore point for Felicity. It's not really a sore point for Hank. He's basically like, that was between you two, and whatever happened happened. I love my mom and I love you. So he doesn't have any feelings. Felicity has more than enough for both of them. And she's worked up about it, and Lowell he unpacks a lot of things about the past that he had not addressed. He had allowed Felicity to maintain the impression and the delusion that she had, because he didn't want to say anything negative about the mother. And he had felt that he had always believed she would tell them what really happened, but she never did, and then she passed away.
Mhm.
So now he's basically he's telling all this, and Felicity doesn't believe him at first, but then she comes around to it, and she asks him, why didn't why are you telling us now if you didn't want to tell us before? And
Mhm.
that's when he says, because I'm dying.
I like the way still in this same conversation, and it shows us in the book how, like you say with Hank, he knew that it was their relationship, and whatever happened in their relationship, it was them. And I also like how the father, he didn't want to have it where the children, and so many times in relationships, and I'm glad you kind of showed that and uncovered it, so many times in a relationship, the children think that it's their fault. And so we get to see here that the father, he, like he said, he doesn't shame her, doesn't backslap her, even in her life or death. But at the same time, he didn't want there to be a villain and a hero.
Right.
Didn't want them to choose that side, because whatever we feel as women or whatever the father feel, we put those emotions onto our children. And you showed that how unhealthy it is without him going that route. It was so beautiful how he wasn't trying to win. He wasn't trying to be right. He wasn't trying to win, you know, his
He
kids over, or in any of those aspect of that relationship.
he was willing to shoulder the burden
Hmm.
and carry on, but now, and as he says to them, listen, now that I'm dying, everything's changed. He said, I can't fight a war against cancer and at the same time fight a war with you because of things you believe that never happened. I can't do that. I'm going to need you to help me, and I can't do both. So, that's why he, and Prescott is thrilled by this whole thing, because and he helps him put Felicity in her place a few times.
Yes, yes,
And so Lowell tells them what's happening, and he tells them too, just like he told Prescott, I'm not dying today.
yeah.
You know,
He said he's not dying today. I want to go back and visit, because with Felicity, you see that when she talked to her father and she sobbed, and like without us giving it away, and she sees, he gives her a folder, and the readers will see as she gives him that phone call back. But even in all that, he said that he does not want her to have this feeling where she drives to the gravesite and throwing rocks at the
right, right.
site. And
He
you have us, the emotions that you want us to have is so there, and you did it. You want to cry, you want to laugh, you have a lot of laughter in there, and then you bring us right to that roller coaster, so we can see that grieving point, so we can see the reality of this man, Dr. Abernathy. However, how hard he is, he has a softer side when it comes to family and come to truth of what really happened you
right.
know and he said he was willing to be the underdog. He was willing to take that on. So I've seen how all that unfold.
Yeah, he doesn't, and he makes it very clear. Although he did say at one point he doesn't want to be buried next to his ex-wife, he
No,
doesn't hate her. He doesn't have any animosity toward her. What happened in their relationship happened, and it's been many years, and he's not holding anything against her.
no, he's not. He's not
And
holding anything, and neither
well,
does he try to get revengeful in some kind of a
yeah,
way,
he
because
did
there's
have
a
his he has, and the readers will see he has his one moment where he does something to cause her. um
Yes, I love that part. I love that part, how he had a community to help him,
oh
in
yeah,
a sweet, sweet, not even a revenge. Because really, when you think about it, that moment again, when someone wants to get their lick back, as people say in society, or they want to other person to hurt, what he did with, at the store and had them to join in with those things, as reader would see, when she came in there, she would hear this particular, thing is going on. But he even did that, because sometimes when you want revenge, he may fall off a cliff and just break his leg. You wanted him to die, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
he doesn't want her to die.
No,
He
wants
just
a
want her
little
to
discomfort. That's all.
yeah,
It's like he wants her to get poison ivy.
yeah, that's it.
And Hank even says to him when he lets Prescott tell the story because he's so excited to tell it. And when he's done, Hank says, Dad, you're the only person in the world who would have thought of that. So,
Yes, yes.
and he's, but the main thing is he's telling them, and he's telling them for a purpose. I mean, he's obviously they need to know that he's dying, but he's also telling them because he wants to reassess, address, and improve his relationship, particularly with Felicity.
Mm-hmm.
And he states he wants more of a relationship with her kids. He
Yes.
wants to be more of an active grandfather, and she's always sort of held him at arm's length. But as he says, I could have made an effort to go to their sporting events. They're open to the public. I could have gone. And now he wants to do that. He wants to be involved.
Yeah. And you also see, like you see in I don't know, something popped up, but it's gone. But anyway, you also see where, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You see where Felicity, she sees that her father is going to get his treatment as well as the cat, they have the same thing, and she kind of sees, well, okay, I see how you have the cat. But
Right.
then Felicity, she gets, after hearing, after he tells her a little bit what's going on, she get a little softer side, and she's like, now she's, to me as a reader, now she's asking,
You froze.
will he allow, that's the part I as a reader start focusing on, the independence. Uh-oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze for a minute, but I can hear you now.
Okay, because something came up. But um the independence being taken away from you. So Dr. Abernathy shows that, if I need you, if I need you, to care for me right now, I'm stubborn. And so why was it important for you to show how a person who is able-bodied then has to be cared for, the loss of that independence, how it played out through Abernathy's lens?
Well, exactly. He's dying, but he's going to die on his terms. Um he's and he has things he wants to do, and he's made his list on his legal pad, and he has everything that he's going to do now, and part of it is this is the first step. These chapters are the first step. This is him reconnecting and rebuilding his relationship with his kids, and it's also him stepping in ways that he hadn't before. He starts to address uncomfortable topics with them,
Mm-hmm.
that about their lives and their partners, that he
Yes.
he had not. And he said, you know what, I was quiet for a long time, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. And so he addresses that. But the other thing is he wants to finish his book that he's working, his book on
Mm-hmm.
leadership, his essays on leadership. And he's like, I'll have enough time to get it done. And, I just have to refocus and work on it. And so Felicity basically now, she does love her father. She always did. But now she's kind of focusing more on that, and says something along the lines of, well, Dad, you don't want to make the book such a focus that it makes your health worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, well, I'm dying. How much worse can it get?
Right, right,
You know,
right,
so what if I die 2 weeks earlier than I was supposed to? You
right.
know,
I'm gonna do a reset. I'm resetting, and our guest here is for some reason I forever want to call you Dr. Abernathy, but Timothy Cable, that is his book, The Sea Change of Dr. Abernathy, a plush book. Hi to you, Doc Fredericks. Thank you for coming in. Do share, swipe, and share. And those who do in replay, we really thank you. We're having a wonderful deep dive. In this story, you'll see a lot of forgiveness, and you'll see a man, Dr. Abernathy, who don't just sits down and mourn over his diagnosis, but he also moved forward in life, still moving. And so I like the way you did that in this book. And he talks about moving forward, and as you said, with his daughter being there and she wanting to care for him at the same time, that's a good relationship, builder. Like you say, the leadership, we'll talk about that another time. And I am very shocked of the leaders that he started with, his word that he referenced the people with leadership. So we'll unfold that next time, because those characters that you have, that you characterize as leadership, some may not think that leadership because of the power or lack of power, lack of leadership that they will see through those lenses. But we'll talk about that, those two that you referenced to, as far as when you start that book with the leadership.
right,
I can't wait to see you break that down and show us through those lenses that you have. We do see, and like I say, I didn't go all in order. We do see a moment where the Kirsten Meads, if I say
right.
her name right,
Yes, you're
they're at the store. So I wanted to go back that, just kind of brighten it up a little bit. And he sees her in the store, and they talk, and she see him, buying things and stuff. But this particular time, there's another meeting that he sees her, and at this moment, they talk about him having a cat.
right,
It seemed like he was being very territorial over his cat, and and then he made it kind of sound like they were going to have a review those lenses. And he do kind of talk about, what would she want an old man for? So it's a
right,
split screen of conversation that he's having with himself, but at the same time, he know who she is. She was one of his students. He said, how much more would she do? She just coming over to help me take care of the cat. Let's talk about
right.
that.
Well, he's Lowell was a very Lowell is and was always a very straight arrow. He would never do anything. And at one point, Kirsten even teases him and says, you know, the female students used to joke that of any of the professors that would want to have a fling with a student, he would be the absolute last one, and that he could be kidnapped and dragged to the dorm, and he would say, look, I have to get back to my office, I have papers to correct, and he would want no part of it. And now he still, because he is who he is and he has that rigid structure. I mean, he was a military man too. He graduated from West Point, and he he likes Kirsten as a person and as a friend, and he invites her over to see. She wants to see the cat, so he invites her over, and then he thinks, "Gee, am I overstepping?" And then he says to himself, "Well, wait a minute. She hasn't been your student for forever, you know, for over 20 years. So what do you know?" And even so, he knows nothing's going to happen. He doesn't want anything to happen, and he's still guarded against it. And he makes sure that all the boxes of propriety are checked,
Hmm.
and they are. And so he invites her over to see the cats. And when Kirsten gets there, I have a line where he says, she's on the steps, and he's just taking her in and looking at her, and he realizes, life is she's still an attractive woman. But as he says, or as I wrote, she's no longer the girl next door. She's now the girl next door who's moved 3 or 4 times. So, life has been a little hard on her, but she's a good person, but she's been through a lot.
Mhm.
And you'll see as it gets deeper in what all that is, and how Dr. Abernathy, being who he is, thinks that maybe there were things he could have done
Mhm.
but didn't do that still haunt him. Um, and that's part of it. And but yeah, she comes over to see the cats, and as she's looking at the cats, he wants to focus on see in Dr. Abernathy's eyes, just because Kirsten never graduated from Dartmouth doesn't mean she's not smart enough to have graduated from Dartmouth.
Mhm.
And he views her as somebody, he always respected her intelligence, her reading and writing ability. When she was his student, she had actually looked over one of his books and caught a mistake that he had in there that, if it had gone to the publisher, might have caused him some embarrassment. And he
Wow.
remembers that.
Mhm.
And and so you'll see that he's got things in mind for her, you
Mhm.
know.
'Cause
Um,
he wants so much more for her because he see the potential
right.
that she has and
And
wanting
Dr.
so much more for her.
Abernathy, throughout the book, you'll see he's trying to tie up loose ends and fix things that he won't be around to fix later. So
Mhm.
he has to fix them now.
Yeah, I like the way when he was telling his daughter, like you said, the steps of things that he wanted to do. But forgiveness was very important and kind of spelled out, but you can get it as a reader, is that he wanted freedom. He wanted freedom not to be tensed around his children, not to have any type of past things to go into the future. He wanted to be free.
Right.
He wanted to be free. And so, how important is that to have not only just Dr. Abernathy's family, but just family freedom to, as he let her, Felicity, unfold through the folder that he has, because he gave her that folder and he
Right.
told her he didn't want to give it to her at first. And then he said, make sure your kids don't see it, make sure your husband don't see it. And are you sure
Well,
that you can
yeah.
handle seeing this? And that's the thing. I started seeing it. I was like, well, wonder what's in there. But you let us know as a reader the things that she realized her father has always been there, but she's the
Right.
one that buried him. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, she realizes now that, and now she'll feel guilty because she realizes she has held a perception of her father, her mother, their marriage, the ending of their marriage, and all of it was basically wrong. And be laboring under that false impression, she's treated her father in a certain way, and he never said anything. And he
Never.
never complained. He never fought back. He just he just trudged along, being there for her and on her terms. Well, now he doesn't want to do it on her terms anymore. He wants to do it on his terms because he said cancer gives him the liberty to be selfish.
Yes.
And he wants to have a relationship with both of his kids and Felicity's children. Hank doesn't have any children. And he wants to have a relationship with them. And so he's saying, in order to do that, I have to go back to the past and correct your perceptions. And
Hmm.
that's what he does. And then they can all move forward.
That was beautiful. That was
Thank
absolutely beautiful. And the forgiveness and different things in there that we see. um, how important is forgiveness for both people? For you to write this just like that, he, not giving her anything. In fact, he let her have her own narrative of what was going on.
Right.
How
He,
important was that to
well,
to to not fight to be right?
yeah, because he didn't want to knock down images of his ex-wife. He didn't, and he's also a stubborn guy. He didn't feel he had anything to prove. He felt he was who he was, and if she couldn't figure that out, okay, fine. But now he doesn't want to do that anymore because he wants to enjoy whatever time he has left in a loving, close relationship with both of his kids. And he also feels that there are things in their lives that they need his help with.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for him to do that, he has to get close to, well, he's already close with Hank, but he has to get close with Felicity because he has major concerns about both Hank's relationship with his
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend and Felicity's second marriage with Chad. And, he wants to put all the cards on the table. So that's after he deals with his diagnosis, then he'll turn to those topics and he sort of applies some tough love to both of them and just says what's on his mind because he basically feels that Chad's just a complete waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
And he discusses with, as you noted last time we talked, Felicity had said that she would have to get a babysitter because Chad doesn't,
Exactly. I did not like that.
he's not big on watching the kids. And, um, and the point is made several times that they are not Chad's biological kids, they're his stepkids. But
Mm-hmm.
as Lowell said, he married a woman with kids. They come along, you know,
Exactly.
and he has no tolerance. And Chad has some interesting um, activities and
Yeah, I saw that.
hobbies and things that are just Chad has never grown up.
I see. She married a boy.
And
He's not a
yeah,
man.
and you'll see later, she had was devastated when her first husband died, and she sort of turned to Chad because she found him to be entertaining and interesting and exciting and everything. And then she realized, what she didn't, it wasn't what she bargained for. Um, and then he deals with Hank too, because at one point Hank says, "Oh boy, Dad, I've never seen you unload on," and Hank doesn't like Chad either. So he's
Yeah.
like, "I've never seen you unload on Chad like this before." And he goes, "Don't worry, your turn is next."
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love, in seeing that how he did mention um Hank's wife. He said,
Girlfriend,
just like,
they're not married.
well, girlfriend. Why did I say
Yeah,
wife?
he
Yeah,
was married.
girlfriend.
He was
Yeah, so that's what
married.
I want to. That's what I want to go back to the wife. He did mention just like your business, just like your wife. You never fought for it. You never fight for anything. And then
Right.
now he's with Solange, and then I don't know how could you be so busy and still add a relationship. That's what I'm looking at like there. And I haven't gotten further or deeper into her life or her character description, except for what we know in the beginning that she's always busy, some kind of I don't know if it's a nonprofit, some kind of volunteering stuff. She's just
Yeah,
always
she's
so
always
busy.
Solange is, well, Lowell just thinks she's sort of a nitwit. Basically, she's she's very pretentious. She speaks with a French accent, although no one in her family does. And she has this very, you know, fake affect and way of carrying on. And she's always involved in some activity or something or some project. But Lowell points out to Hank, he's like, look, you work all day.
Mm-hmm.
You have this business, you're running the business. She's not working. And he said, which is fine. But then you come home and she hasn't prepared dinner, and you either have to cook dinner or
Yeah.
order dinner because she didn't do anything. And he said, and she doesn't have children to take care of. What does she do? So
Exactly. Exactly. And that is a true point. What does she do? And he sees that. And like you say, he tells his kids, hold on, I'm getting back. I hear you, babe. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
it's
Hopefully that
okay.
was not that. But we do get to see that, like he said, he wanted to uncover lay things to rest. He knows he's dying and he wants to go forward with peace in life. And
Right.
that's gathering his children, like I said, no matter how Felicity viewed him as to what she thought what had happened with their relationship. And you do get to see Trent. They talked about Trent a little bit, and
Right.
he mentioned that he did mention Dr. Abernathy did mention that his ex-wife, was looking for love, and he don't know if she really got what she was looking for.
Right. He feels some degree of sympathy and sadness for her, that she spent her whole life looking for something, and he doesn't know if she ever found it. And she died, a few years back, and she never was happy. And in some level, he feels a little sorry that he she wasn't happy with him. Um, and that's an issue. But he also is moving forward, and he both kids agree to go to his medical appointment with him. They want to be there, and he wants them
Yeah.
there to see what the diagnosis and treatment plan is going to be. And also, he wants to he says, look, we've fallen off. We used to have Sunday dinners all the time, but from now on, as long as I'm alive, I want to have everybody here on Sunday. And I want to have the Sunday. And of course, Felicity says, well, Dad, I don't want you to, exhaust yourself. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to be roasting a whole cow in the backyard. I mean, and
So true.
if it's too much, you can help, or I can order things, or we'll do something. I just want to spend time with my children and grandchildren, and Prescott too.
But let me ask you this: because as you were talking, and I'm thinking about this leadership as we go on into the other chapters, and it seemed like to me, just from hearing that now into as a reader from what he was saying, you know, do you think as a writer yourself that writing that leadership book prior to that, his personal life, as it circles back around, I think he's beginning to know his leadership within the family because looked like the mother had dictated everything, and he seems like he was more of a docile man.
Well, yeah, he had always been. I mean, he's always been a leader in his life, but he didn't want to do anything to go after the mother or her image, and she had not held up her end of the bargain. She was supposed to tell the kids what really happened, and she never did. And then she died, so she can't do it now. So he has to, or it won't get done. And that's why Prescott is thrilled, and Prescott backs him up in the conversation and says a few things to the kids. Well, no, this is what your dad did. And they also don't know. Like Felicity thinks at one point, she says, well, what could you have done? You're just an old history professor. She doesn't realize And Prescott's like, do you realize what he did in the war? And what type of a guy he is?
Yeah.
And because he and as I mentioned at one point, Lowell is not, I think I said this at the beginning of the book, Lowell's not the type of grandfather that's gonna just be all sweet and kind and give you a candy or something. He's the type of grandfather you go to if kids are bullying you, because he'll go and take care of it. And that's who he is. And so that's why Prescott is so proud and pleased to see that he's being himself.
Hmm.
And then he's coming out and he's swinging with both hands, basically. He's not being mean.
He's not.
No,
He's
I
not.
mean, some of the stuff he says about Chad, but he's accurate because, he at one point he says that when he hears the name Chad, he thinks of those little cardboard things that hang off the edge of the paper that they call Chads. And he's like, but those are more useful than he is.
It was
So,
funny. But she get to digest that too after she reads what's in that folder. She,
right,
she kind of know that it's true, whether she tell him fully or just hints around. But he did. He cared about not only just his children. He cared about their relationship. He cared about what's life going to look like for them when I'm gone.
right.
What's that look like?
And Felicity changes a lot during this meeting, during this.
Yeah, just in that meeting alone, out of how many years of separation to just this meeting
Well, I
to
mean,
get
they've been in
softened?
contact, but it's not been close. I mean,
Exactly.
they have they're close, but superficially close. There's no real depth, and she holds him in an arm's length. And at one point at the beginning, it changes because at the beginning, when she gets there and she sees the cats, that bothers her at first. And then when she finds out that Fern also has cancer, that bothers her because
Exactly.
it opens up the sores of, oh, you can invest time and money in taking care of the cat, and in her mind, but you weren't there for mother.
Exactly. So I like the way, like I said before, with the other example, you gave this second example, what's really hinging off of the conversation.
Yeah,
Them having that relationship. You care more about it. She may as well just say, Daddy, you care more about the stupid cat than you cared about our relationship or making things right or even telling me about what really happened. And it goes further on. The story moves along and she gets to see what really happened.
right. And it also shows more about Lowell's character,
Hmm.
that he was willing to bear the brunt of it, and as opposed to saying negative things about someone who's not there to defend themselves, even though they're
Exactly.
true.
Hmm.
Even though they're true, he's reluctant to do it, but now he has to, because his own mortality is now the issue.
Exactly. And like you said, he could have done that, but what was he going to get out of it? It's still their mother after all. Like you said, it's still,
Right,
that's still your mom. And, I don't want you to have a bad taste in
right,
your mouth, I would say, about your mom now that you know the truth. And he still even though he said now that he has cancer, he's going to really talk about it and say what he will, he still handled that with care. The
right,
information of what he have, not making himself careful of making himself seem like the superhero of the family. Even though
right,
when she reads through it, she can see that wow, my dad was a good man. And they do say it within the story. Felicity says, well, how did you take all of this? How did you process this? What you were going through with mom?
right. And he just kind of he tried his best until he couldn't try anymore.
Hmm.
That's what he said. And then they also find out things, without going into too much detail, about after their marriage dissolved finished. um
Hmm.
she moved on rather quickly,
Exactly.
and there were issues between the kids, Felicity and Hank, and the mother's new husband, Trent. And all of a sudden, those issues went away, and Felicity never realized
Right.
what happened. And now she sees her father in a whole new light because she
Exactly.
found out what happened. And she sees him as a different type of man than and how devoted he was with his to his kids, even though he wasn't there. He wasn't
Exactly.
living in the house with his ex-wife anymore, but he was involved and he took care of it.
He did. He really
And,
took care of that.
you know, and Prescott backs him up on that because the relationship, and you'll see later on in the book that the relationship between Prescott and Lowell, and how Lowell basically was always there for his brother and made kind of sacrifices, but he stood up for him.
Hmm.
Because, Prescott, he's openly gay, and that wasn't as accepted back in that time as it
Hmm.
is now.
Now, yeah.
When they were kids, Prescott had a hard time, and Lowell was always there for him.
Yeah.
And that comes out more as they go deeper. And Prescott also is the only one who really stands up to Lowell and pushes him into uncomfortable places
Yeah, he
that he
does.
doesn't want to be necessarily.
That's so true. I wanted to ask you a question too. It's coming to that time. Wow, the time is going really quickly. Um, why was it so important for you to show Dr. Abernathy and how he respected his wife Lucille in life and death, of showing how even in her life, in her death, how a husband could have a clean fight?
Yeah, he always was he was always the type of guy who did the right thing and tried to do the right thing whenever possible. And that's how he lives, and that's what he does. And he's very, even when as a professor, he doesn't cross lines, he doesn't do things. And if it's the right thing to do, he does it. And he loved he makes that clear. He did love his ex-wife, but they reached the point with things that she was doing that he couldn't just overlook things anymore. He
Hmm.
reached the point where he had to end it, but he didn't end it with animosity or bitterness. He didn't go after her, try to ruin her. He worked it out. She didn't want the house
No,
where
she didn't.
she wanted the condo that his father had left him. So he said, fine, then I'll stay here and you go there.
Hmm.
And so he maintained the house, and that's pretty much, the way that resolved. But he never, and her death had bothered him. He wasn't, doing cartwheels when she passed away. He was upset about it. Um, you know, his his relationship with Lucille is much different than the relationship in the first book between Lawrence and Nilda.
Hmm.
I mean, Lucille had a lot of flaws, and she was more of a negligent spouse, whereas Nilda was an abusive spouse.
She was. She
And
was.
and
I
there's
see
a
that.
difference there. And so Lowell didn't have, I mean, he got his little jabs in here or there, but he didn't go after Lucille.
He did
He
not.
felt sorry and sad
Do you
that
think that the kids, I'm sorry, do you think that his children thought that he was weak because he didn't seem to fight?
no, I think, see, Felicity had a whole different perception. She thought he was the one who was doing the things that weren't supposed to be done.
Mhm.
And so she viewed him as callous and uncaring, and that's how she viewed him. Hank just didn't really. He loved his dad, he loved his mom. He didn't really want to get into it, and he doesn't. Hank doesn't like any type of confrontation or problem or anything. And they find him, but he doesn't like them, and so he didn't really. But at the end, at the end of these chapters, Hank realizes how strong his father really was, and
Mhm.
that he had taken all that basically to protect the reputation and image of his ex-wife, because it didn't it wouldn't have made things any, it wasn't anything. He wasn't going to get anything out of tearing her down. And now he's really not tearing her down. He's just presenting the facts as they are
Mhm.
so that he can move forward, because he doesn't want to. It would be difficult for him to do what he has to do with his kids if they are still, well, Felicity is still harboring a grudge and animosity toward him. He has to get rid of that.
Mhm. It's
And
one
that's
thing before we go. This is what I want to say. The last thing before we go, I saw how Hank, how he said about his mom. He said that um, loving his dad doesn't mean he has to love him less.
right.
Just to have, and I'm paraphrasing, loving his dad didn't mean that he needed to love him less just to have the same love for his mama. I'm paraphrasing it.
Right. He's like, basically, yeah, he says, I don't have to love her less to love you more.
Right, right.
They're two separate things.
Yeah, isn't that's really something. I
And
like how you
Felicity
showed that
struggles
because
with that. Felicity is a very compartmentalized, black and white, cut and dry person. So she has everything, as she says, she has everything on little shelves in her mind. And now those shelves have been knocked all down and she has to restructure them.
yes, I
And
love that. I
she's
love
going to
that.
have to go to extra therapy sessions to
Mhm.
uh,
Exactly. But
yeah,
what is from this chapter, from the first, we went from the first to the fourth chapter, and these chapters are really meaty. So when we come back, we go from 6 to 10, and then it
sure.
takes us to the leadership book. And like I said, how did you characterize those leaderships, those two? And they'll see when we come back, those two you reference as leadership. And maybe nobody would see it through their lens, those two characters you named within our real world. So
Right.
what did you want them to take away out of the first four chapters uh, in this story of the sea change of Dr. Abernathy, the first
Well,
four?
just that Dr. Abernathy is a very, very layered character. Um, he has there's a lot to him. And he's been dealt the worst blow or the worst news that any of us could ever get. And what he's doing, he does not tolerate any notion of self pity, maybe for about 5 seconds, but that's it. And he focuses on, okay, this is it. What am I going to do with what I have?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, basically Lowell is the living embodiment of one of my favorite quotes, which is from Theodore Roosevelt, which is, do what you can with what you have where you are. So
Mm.
you're in a position, you can't wish for things you don't have. You're not going to get them. You have to make do with what you have and do the best you can. And that's what Lowell does. And now he's trying to make the best life that he possibly can. And the key to that, the number one thing for him is family.
Mm-hmm.
And then his number two thing is, well, the cats are in there somewhere, but his book, because he is a professional. He takes pride. He's a gifted writer, and it's a different kind of writing. It's not fiction, it's historical writing. And, he's a top historian, he's an expert, and he has things that he wants to do. And if he focuses, then he's going to do it. If he's writing that book on the day he dies to finish it, that's what he's going to do.
Wow. And I like this way when you said that too. And we're going to close out when he said, that I'm going to do the book. I'm not going to say that I hope I finish the book. He says, I'm going to do it.
Right. He doesn't even tolerate that he consider the option of not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's something to look forward to. I like that. We're going to end our story today, and we'll come back on the 28th. I believe that is. Help me out with that. And we'll be here the same time. And this time we're going to go a little bit further. We're going to dig into that leadership and those shocking reference that you have leadership. Let's see how we can unfold this through the lens of the writer yourself.
Well, this is an interesting one. Just let me writing this book. I had to not only write this book, but I had to write the leadership book too.
Wow.
So I had to become Lowell, and then you'll see later on that there's another character who's a writer, and I had to do what he did.
Wow.
So there's a lot to it.
I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait. A book within a book, as you said.
Yes.
A book within the book. This has been awesome. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I look forward to the next talk that we have. And I also look forward to the other books that you drop. I think that you're an amazing writer. I absolutely love your style of writing. You know,
thank you very much.
Do. I really do. You have an awesome night. Thank the wonderful wife. I thought I was going to see your cat, but
no, he's wandering around the rest of the apartment.
Well, let him wander around. We could put a picture on my side, because that was a nice picture you sent of the cat. Almost made me like him. That's
yeah. He is the same type of cat that Dr. Abernathy has, a Maine Coon cat.
Yes. Oh, that's big. I don't know if you read what I said, but that's not a cat. That's a lion.
And he's still a baby. He's only a year old.
He looks like a lion already.
I know.
You have an amazing night. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Wonderful wife for allowing you to come.
I will. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. See you next time. I can't wait. Hit the X down. Thank you in replay time. I thank you guys for being here. Again, I'm Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Thank you guys for this moment. Again, this is our 3-day show. If you're interested in it, do email me at mrssuds@yahoo.com. Also, we do have our Tuesday shows called titled the Scout Out Shout Out. On that show, it is purely from your synopsis. We read your synopsis and we deep dive into the book. So it has been amazing tonight. To all of you guys, thank you again. Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents. Good night, guys. Bye-bye.